心あるがゆえに妬み心あるがゆえに暗い心あるがゆえに奪い心あるがゆえに怒り心あるがゆえに侮り心あるがゆえに怒り心あるがゆえにお前のすべてを欲する。
Today I want to defend this page. Yeah, I hope as a result my credibility does not become bleached. So by doing this, I'm not attempting to be a 200 IQ pseudo-intellect trying to prove Bleach has the same literary merit as Ulysses and thus comes Zarathustra. I just like this page. Honestly, I've wanted to make this for a while, but don't know if people actually care about Bleach analysis that much, so if there's actual demand and you don't want this to fall into the void of the algorithm, then if we somehow reach 4,000 likes, then I'll definitely make more Bleach videos like this. So to be annoyingly self-aware, I know calling this the most ridiculed moment is slightly hyperbolic, but at least I don't make anime confirmation videos when a new pachinko machine is released. Back in the day, I owned the channel Soul Madness, and through my Bleach videos, I learnt a lot about how the community perceived the story, particularly this page. And out of all the memes and plot guys, I noticed that this is where the bulk of the ridicule originated from. This is where Kubology was born. Without context, it really isn't the most prolific piece of art, and to be honest, I have no problem with people memeing this. The issue comes when the ridicule actually disincentivizes any genuine discussion of the story. For example, if this page is seen as inherently shallow, lazy, or a meme, then analyzing it may seem ridiculous. It's not that deep, bruh, you're just a suit trying to find meaning where there is none. And that's mainly the approach I want to address, as, ironically, this is the approach of an Ulquiorra. So was this just a lazy attempt to take up page space, or an outstanding piece of artistry? Whatever you think it is, I just hope you can give me the benefit of the doubt, as unlike Ulquiorra, I don't see this moment as meaningless or hollow, but as something that has heart. So before I actually praise this page, I need to justify it with a shit ton of context so my conclusions actually make sense, which means I need to try and convince you that Ulquiorra is a bit more than an I'm 14 and this is deep tier edgy nihilist. So for those not depressed enough to know what nihilism actually means, it's a cheery philosophy that denies the existence of any intrinsic values in the world. In other words, concepts like emotions, meaning, and purpose are things Ulquiorra likes to destroy with facts and logic. Through his dialogue, you see that his favourite pastime hobby is breaking people's resolve with an overly logical and skeptical knife. So this brings up the question, why is he such a miserable bastard? Well, this line gives a bit of insight.
心だと貴様ら人間はたやすくそれを口にする。まるで自らの手のひらの上にあるかのように、俺のこの目は全てを映す。映らぬものは存在せぬもの。そう断じて戦ってきた。
And this approach is why he can't truly understand the heart, as it's not something literal that can be seen or precisely defined, it's simply a feeling. Which is a problem, as I don't know if you've noticed, but Ulquiorra tends not to feel emotions that much. In Japanese, the word kokoro itself has a lot of vague meanings like heart, mind, spiritual center, emotions, courage, and inner meaning that don't really do the word justice. It's not something to be intellectually understood through Ulquiorra's approach of meticulous logical analysis, which is why he can't understand wish-washy things like feelings and willpower, as he believes they're just meaningless concepts that don't actually exist. He is the complete opposite to Ichigo and Orihime. He represents the void and they embody the heart. Ichigo relies on courage and inner strength to beat his opponents, and Ulquiorra likes proving these concepts mean nothing in the face of absolute power. That latching onto the heart is only a delusion that makes people do silly things and causes unnecessary suffering. And Ulquiorra likes proving this through his adorable style of killing. He ceroblasts his enemies in the same place as his hollow hole, the place that represents his lost heart, which coincidentally unironically is where the heart, ego, or center of one's spirit is located in Japanese culture. So he doesn't only break one's heart physically, but also spiritually, leaving just a hollow void, almost as a means to justify his mindset. Let's just try and find the right chapter title. There we go. Yep. Contrary to popular opinion, I don't believe he rejects the heart out of edgy apathy, but because he's scared. This is going to be the more serious part of the video, as it's quite difficult to find humor in a backstory all about being dead inside, so here's a content warning if that's a bit too much. Ulquiorra was born at the bottom of an abyss, which is most likely a cheeky nod to Nietzsche. When hollows lose their heart, it becomes a mask that reflects their individual nature, and this is pretty evident through Ulquiorra's character design, as he's been practically bleached from any bodily function here. He can't hear, touch, speak, sleep, smell, or eat. He is the embodiment of being detached, practically one step away from being a dead bramble bush. Oh wait, that happens later. Being born like this meant he had practically nothing in common with the lovely chaps around him. He was white, they were black, he was isolated, they were in a group, he was self-aware, and they were practically brain dead. He couldn't even eat, which is like the only moderate purpose of being a hollow. The only thing he had in common was his eyes, simply making him a detached, apathetic observer to the reality in front of him. Yeah, I told you this wasn't going to be the most light-hearted of backstories. Oh shit, that was an unintentional pun, never mind. And it's here where I believe his fear of the heart originated from, as whilst Ulquiorra couldn't experience anything sensory, he could still feel things emotionally. He wasn't fully dead inside yet, which meant he could still feel emotional pain. And this was a problem, as he desired connection with the other hollows, but never got it. He initially thought they were his companions, but they kind of stood him up and tried to kill him, so he was forced to kill them in self-defense. And it was this that fundamentally changed his mindset. Because he felt isolated and valued companionship, he suffered when his connection to the hollows was lost. In other words, his emotional attachment, or his heart, was the cause of his pain. So he began to fear and reject it, denying the value in everything he saw as a means to escape potential suffering, gradually becoming detached not only externally, but internally. And it was at this moment, whilst walking aimlessly without a purpose, that he found an object reflected in his eyes that was as dead inside as himself. He almost projected his nihilism onto this dead bramblebush thing, as he never came across something quite so pointless and empty. And by merging with this object so similar to himself, it's almost as if he wasn't isolated anymore. So now he truly had nothing to gain and nothing to lose, gradually becoming so detached over time, he forgot what it was like to feel emotions anymore. Happiness. Now hopefully I didn't just contradict myself there. As user Jenny Jade pointed out on LiveJournal, the kanji for happiness normally refers to
幸せ
which roughly means an external feeling of good luck, but here it's kofuku, which is something more internal, a moment of blissful peace, zen, or contentness with life. In other words, at this moment, he didn't feel or experience anything. He had nothing to fear. He was empty. And whilst that thought may seem nice, Kubo constantly reinforces that a life without fear or emotion is a life of pure stagnation. You simply exist for the sake of it. And this is Ulquiorra's biggest character flaw. He tries to escape fear altogether rather than accept it. And that's why Ichigo and Orihime are his perfect character foils. He sees them develop and grow every time they face their fears, whilst he never changes. They gradually wake him up from his apathetic dream and slap him back into reality. It's implied that Ichigo and Orihime gradually humanize Ulquiorra, making him realize just how much of a miserable bastard he was. Almost as if by seeing their courage and the heart they value so much, he unconsciously regains his emotions. The more they influence him, the more detached he becomes. And it's not just Ulquiorra that changes, but Ichigo as well. This chapter is fittingly called Envy, as Ichigo tries to mimic the destructive power of the Hollows, and Ulquiorra envies the strength of the heart, as it's why Ichigo doesn't actually fucking die when he's killed. Ichigo only continues to get stronger by facing his fears, whilst Ulquiorra remains static. Ichigo never lets go of his sword, never abandons his willpower, and never gives up when faced with Ulquiorra's overwhelming power. Just like any shonen protagonist, Ichigo is a
しぶといやつだ。
Even this completely broken hollow form was thanks to Ichigo's plot desire to protect Orihime, and in an almost parallel situation, here it was Ulquiorra's turn to get slapped across Los Noches. But because he doesn't value inner strength like Ichigo, he gives up relatively quickly. This not only highlights their biggest differences, but also shows how their roles gradually become reversed. Ichigo's core purpose as a protagonist has always been to win through his inner strength, to feel like number one.
戦うだけじゃ意味がねえ。生き残るだけじゃ意味がねえんだ。勝ちたい。俺は勝ちたい。
Yet here he wins with just pure mindless violence with no semblance of control, simply clapping everything around him to death. This fight went against his core purpose as a protagonist.
こんな勝ち方があるかよ。
You could say his victory was hollow. Even Orihime realized she couldn't escape her biggest character flaw. Despite trying not to be a burden, she was still powerless and over-reliant on Ichigo. In the crucial moment, she wasn't supportive, but dependent. On the other side of the coin, Ulquiorra begins to act off somewhat wholesome emotions rather than pure apathy. He was empathetic towards Ichigo's guilt, even offering his life so he could get closure. He saved Uryu and Orihime's lives through his plot on stopping Ichigo's Sero, and I don't think this was an act purely out of self-preservation, as his internal organs were practically atomized at this point. He already knew he was going to die, so if his life no longer had meaning, why even bother saving these two? Was this perhaps an action out of empathy? In the end, it was Ichigo and Orihime who showed Ulquiorra the real value of the heart. True strength isn't just about pure destructive power or how many Lanza de Relampago nukes you can fire, but the ability to face your fears and grow as a result of that. Ichigo relied on others for strength, which is why he won. Ulquiorra relied on nothing, which is why he lost. And it was only by reaching out to Orihime that he realized the one who was afraid all this time was him. So, to finally get to the point of this video after 15 minutes, why is this moment simply a white page with 2 kanji on it? Why do I think this is unironically thoughtful rather than lazy? Hopefully I can talk about the art on this page, or the lack of art, without coming across as too pretentious. Just to get some insight, it's worth hearing from the man himself. When a new character comes in, there are times when the background is blank. This is because I want the character to create the mood just by standing there. This style of using emptiness on the page to emphasize an emotion is actually really similar to Zen Buddhist artwork. Basically, this type of art can be deliberately empty and vague simply as a means to make your mind wander, to allow for curiosity and interpretation rather than detailed analysis on the fine details. Unless you take the whole image in, not as something to be intellectually understood, but to slap you with an emotion. And this vague emptiness is very similar to the concept of kokoro I mentioned earlier, and is seen throughout Kubo's artwork. So with this cultural context, I'm not trying to convince you the empty backgrounds are deep by any means, just that they make a bit more sense. When Kubo wants to emphasize the mood of a drawing, he bleaches all unnecessary details, focusing your attention purely on the heart of the scene. I think drawing is not about drawing points and planes, but about depicting moods. Words aren't just lines either, so whenever I draw or write, I do it in a way that breathes life into the paper. This condensed style means you can pretty much read Bleach through its images alone without the need for dialogue. He pushes the narrative forward purely through the visual manipulation of black and white, and this is why I think in the context of Ulquiorra's death, this page works. The empty white background gives form to the black lines. This intense contrast of opposites is the perfect way to illustrate Ulquiorra's final revelation. The white void he represents is what manifests the black kanji kokoro ka. Despite being opposites, one cannot exist without the other. Ulquiorra, the void, reaches out to Orihime, the heart. They are interconnected, and by realizing this, he remembers what it was like to actually feel again. He remembers the desire for connection he always wanted since he was born. What he was searching for was in the palm of his hand, this entire time. So, to conclude, what I believe to be the heart in Bleach is a source of strength in vulnerability. It's a feeling you can only get by having the courage to open yourself up, even though that's a very scary thing to do. Unmasking yourself in that way means at times you will inevitably get hurt, suffer loss, and feel fear. But Kubo emphasizes even that is a better alternative than trying to escape fear altogether, from detaching yourself from reality behind a mask. So I guess the main message is just don't be an Ulquiorra by hesitating to move forward with your life. I know from experience being stagnant leads to a life of unnecessary anxiety where you simply exist for the sake of it, kind of like a dead bramble bush. To be honest, I'm even afraid of uploading this because the nature of this video will make people think I'm a pretentious dude, but I'm doing it anyway as I'd probably be more annoyed with myself if I did nothing. So if Kubology has taught me one lesson, don't be afraid of being afraid. Hey everyone, thank you for watching. I genuinely don't know if a video like this will actually do well, so if you're a Bleach fan and you did enjoy it somewhat, then a like or subscription would be genuinely appreciated, as it's the only way to really gauge support, as I don't think an unironic analysis of the story would do as well as an anime confirmation video or talking about how the series turned to shit. Also, I've started a Discord server for those who are interested. YouTube can be a surprisingly lonely hobby sometimes, and I do want to interact more with the community I've made, so that's in the description if you want to check it out. Also, I just want to thank Savadva, I don't know how to pronounce, for creating this absolutely brilliant piece of artwork. Seriously, it's stuff like this that means more than any amount of views. I've linked their Twitter in the description, please check it out. Also, finally, I think from now on I'm going to have to make shorter videos, as on the one hand I do like the long form style of videos as I have the time to actually explore ideas and explain myself, but on the other hand it really isn't a sustainable method, so I'm hoping that by making smaller videos of the same quality, I could upload at least a few times a month, rather than a year. So yeah, I don't even know how to end this now. Oh yeah, subscribe to my second channel for low quality videos. Thank you.